Bonjour. Est-ce qu'il y a des gens qui parlent que anglais? Is there any people that speaks only English here? Just one person? Okay, and two people? Okay, so we were not sure if we were going to do it in French or in English, so we are going to be doing it a mix of those two languages, if that fits with you. Okay, cool. So, Spotify. I think those slides are in French. If they want to move. No, come on. Oh. Yay. So my story starts in 2006, and if you remember 2006, if you are old enough, like me, like a granny, you have to remember that the music industry back then was like in very bad shape. During the 90s, with the introduction of the internet and so on, the music industry that was solely based on physical music, like discs and CDs and so on, dropped massively with the piracy and the torrents and the change and so on, okay? So beginning of 2000, the music industry lost almost 75% of the revenue they had. So a lot of producers, companies and so on had to close because of that. So it was really complicated. And in Sweden, back then, there was two people, Daniel and Martin. So Daniel was an engineer. So I really love what he said about the founders being engineers. I really agree with that. He was an engineer, and he was also passionate by music. He had already a lot of money in his bank account, so he was not pushed by the need of creating something to make a living. He already had that. And he partnered with Martin, who was equally passionate about music, but much more on the commercial sales side, right? And those two people, they decided they are going to save the music industry. What they wanted to have, they had this hunch that maybe we could keep the user experience of having all the music I want to have in my pocket without having to buy the physical support of it. But we could do that in a legal way, and we could do that in a way that pays the beneficiary. And I know you will have a question on that, so that question I will take it at the end of that. I have the answer. So they kind of want to do that. They're a bit geeky and so on. They drive very rapidly what was the first version of Spotify, which was a desktop version, because back then, beginning of 2008, you did not have the mobile phone we have today. Mobile networks were not as strong as today, so streaming on the mobile phone was not really something, really. So they go for that, and how can we do that? Because they had they were very precise on the level of the quality they wanted to provide and so on, so they needed to have on board really smart people. And they recruited a team of 20-ish people that had the same characteristic. They were all senior engineers, really talented, very smart, capable of doing very, very complex stuff. And comes with that, in the package, comes with that if you have very senior people, very senior engineer, most of them, they had a strong XP background when it comes to Agile. So they knew about technical excellence, engineering excellence, and all the basics of Agile. And Daniel has some belief, and during the talk you will see some of his belief. And one of those was, I'm going to recruit people that are smarter than myself, and because they are smarter than myself, I'm going to trust them to find a way, and I'm going to take myself out of the way. So day one, he trusted them in finding the way to solve the complex problem that he gave them, to self-organize, to choose their tools, to change their ways of working, and so on. And they did that, and 2 years after the beginning of the project, the first version of Spotify was launched. Why 2 years? Because it was complicated, we told that, but also because they have totally no clue at all about how music industry was working, so they had to negotiate contract, and there was a very huge problem. Why is that I put Metallica? Not just because it's one of my favorite bands ever, but also because they were the first music band to trust them and to approve the use of their music catalog in the Spotify. So that really changed the game. So very rapidly, they conquered the market. Sweden, okay, not a big market. It's like a few millions of Swedish people. ABBA and IKEA, you know them more than that. They're not going to conquer the universe. So they're like, okay, we need to go to the United States. And to that, they recruit more people and more people and more people. And in 2011, Spotify goes bigger, cross the Atlantic and goes to the United States. At this moment, there were 300 people. And that's interesting because from the 21st one, we talked about it, to those ones, means that they had to recruit very diverse people, maybe more junior people, maybe less agile people. And also when you are 20 people, it's very easy, located in the same space, like time and space, it's very easy for you to self-organize, which is a bit more tricky when you have teams in Stockholm and in New York, not in the same time frame, not having the same cultural background and so on. So at this moment, that was like, we don't know how to make it work kind of situation. So this is when they recruited two talented consultants, Henrik Niebers and Anders, to help them figure it out. And they figured it out. How's that? Bottom-up, mushrooming approach, talking with the engineers, seeing with them how they could adjust the ways of working, find ideas, define the rules, and so on. And in 2012, they published a tiny PDF document that's called Scaling Agile at Spotify, 20 pages, that is the source of the problem. Why is that? Because those 20 pages only talk about a small, tiny part of it, which is the squad and the guilds and the chapters and the tribes, which is the one thing everybody knows about that. So who has Spotify, who uses Spotify here on a daily basis? Raise your hand. Hey, I love because it always works, right? And who has been somehow put into a squad or change your team into a squad because that's the new trend at some point as well? Don't be shy. Yes, I feel you, really. So that became very, very famous. I want to just take a few seconds here because in tech, like in many science, when a woman creates something and then a man comes just right after, we tend to take the name of the man and totally forget the name of the girls before. And here we hear Karin Boyjen, that nobody remembers. This is me paying tribute to her because she was the first agile coach recruited, the first female recruited in the R&D team at the very, very beginning, and she laid off all the foundations that Henry could build on. So let's think about her. So that's the famous Spotify model. I would like to put some light on just one thing. It is not named Spotify model. It's called Spotify engineering culture. So it has nothing to do with agile model or agile at scale model, really. And it's a two-pager drawn by Henrik that gathers a lot of things. That gathers how they want to do a release, how they want to decouple the code and the team and the releasing to create more autonomy to teams, how they want to manage how they want to manage dependencies and interaction between teams using the internal open source model, for example, how they want to use release trains and feature toggling. But it talks about also leadership, it talks about testing on the large scale, it talks about what they prefer, impact over velocity and so on. So this is very, very rich. And at that moment, Henrik, who is very, very much talented to present things to people and to, I don't know to say that, simplify, vulgarisation, to simplify the concept, was doing like this European tour of conference. And I met him in France at this moment. I think it was in Agile Grenoble. And like everybody in the room, I felt in love. I was really in love with everything he said. He was talking about autonomy, emergence, like leadership, empowering leadership, good practice, technical excellence, product management. I was already on the dark side of the force, being a product manager myself, not being a developer anymore. So I was really in love with that. And when I asked you a few minutes ago how much of you use Spotify, that was an easy game for me because I know there is a lot of you here because Spotify today, remember those very early stages where I told you like few millions of people, as of today is almost 800 millions of people that use Spotify on a daily basis, which is more or less 7% of the whole humankind. Yeah, I know, that makes that. And 3% of the humankind actually pays for that. So there is like this huge, insane commercial success of it. Okay? Hello, my name is Rachel. I'm an agile coach. I started in the late 90s as being a web developer. As I said, moved to the product management very soon. Discovered Agile very soon as well, first with XP and then with Scrum. And in my life, I had the chance and the opportunity to work with very, very cool companies. And one of them is Spotify. If you want to be friend with me, you can tag the QR code. So I want to give you kind of insider look about what is Spotify, because Spotify doesn't communicate that much on those questions, so it's kind of obscure, I would say. And also, I would like to kill some of the crazy ideas, because there are crazy ideas. There are a lot of companies that saw the commercial and the technical success of Spotify, and they like, oh, we want that, the success. Oh, that's because of the tribe and the squad, let's do that. Okay? And that hurts people. So I want to present you Anna. She's a software engineer. She's fictional, but she's based on real data. That's why she's interesting. So she's engineer. Why is that? It was easy to pick her because over 60% of the employees at Spotify are software engineer. It's an engineering-based company. It was created by engineers, still led by engineers. Engineering is the core of the business, the software is the business, the platform is the business, not the other way around. And that really shapes the company, right? She's also a woman. That's not also a detail. It's intentional. They intentionally make sure that they will source to have like parity, and over 45% of the employees at Spotify, the software engineers at Spotify, are women. And we have an equal representation at the leadership, including the C-level of the company, with half male, half women. Also, that tells you a lot, okay? She got into Spotify through a very, very, very long process of recruitment. Why is that? Because they receive over 1 million and so on, job offers, job applications, and they only open like 100-ish to 1,000-ish position per year. So competition is very fierce. And you really have to go through a huge and long process to get that. Plus, because of the COVID, the company adopted the work from anywhere, or work from anywhere, works like that. So they were able to source people all over the world to work with them. So it means that for one single seat, then you are in competition with the very best of the very best all over the world. That's very difficult. They have a cool, I'm going to go fast on that, but there are a few points I wanted to point right. So they want to have the best of the best, but they don't want to have, and I'm going to keep the metaphor, mystical metaphor, I'm sorry, but they don't want to have rock stars. They want to have band members. They want to have people that are very, very, very talented in playing with other people to create something that is awesome. We don't want to have just the forefront singers that has catch the line just for himself and forget everybody else in the room. So during the interview process, they are going to check that. Are you capable or not to be this awesome, nice member? Also, one thing that is cool I wanted to mention is if you get the chance to get into Spotify and you get offered, you will not be able to say your salary. salary will be proposed to you. Based on, they're going to see from your level, your age, your range, what you have done, your country and so forth, what is the best offer, and this is them doing that to you. Why is that? Because they want to kill the bias that some people are more shy when it comes to negotiating, and we know that women get offered less, or if you are from a minority, you get offered less. If you are disabled, you get offered less. They don't want that, so they're very intentional about that. And it's either yes or no, you accept or you don't take it. The process is very, very transparent. How does she know that she got an offer, you may ask me, because at some point she will receive a notification from her Spotify app. Joke aside, when I applied to Spotify, my chosen platform was Desert. So they called me, did you receive the notification? I was like, no, I don't have Spotify, kind of things. So you receive Spotify, the notification, and if you pay attention to the name of the playlist, they created a playlist for you. It's called We Need You. And then if you read the names of the songs there, it creates a message. Oh, you are really awesome. We need you on the team. When you're ready to come and get it, with kind regards, your friends. P.S. You're so cool. That makes you fall in love with them again. And that's intentional, I guess. So she received that, and then she goes through a huge onboarding. First is the pre-onboarding, where she has to pick her own material. So you can choose, are you PC person? Are you Apple person? What it is that the kind of machine that you need. You can set up your configuration, the laptop, you want to have the size of the screen, whatever. You want to work at home, what kind of desk do you want? What kind of chair do you want? You pick up that by yourself, on your own. You get delivered at home, that was my case. And 24 hours before the D-Day, everything is open, you receive all the communication, your access granted, blah, 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 all the documentation that happens. Very, very smooth onboarding. And then goes intro days. So you will start by 5 days of intro days that will be at company level, 5 days where they fly you to Spotify in Stockholm. You get to meet every cool people there, you get to meet the founders, and very suddenly, day one, you have access to all the information regarding Spotify, how much money they make, how performing or not they are, and so on. It's very, very much transparent. Makes you also fall in love with them again. And then you have the onboarding per se that goes more and more deeper into you coming to your team. So you are an engineer, so you go first to Spotify and then R&D onboarding. 3 days all about onboarding, that's gonna be explained to you. Okay, my mission was consumers and platforms, like a big, big team of teams. So you go that one. And then I was part of the tribe client platform, then you go to the onboarding platform. And finally, you get to meet your team, and that's super cool. And you have challenges, and one of the fun challenges that you have is to take coffee with people. Fikas, they call that. So your challenge is to take at least 2 or 3 coffee per day with people randomly chosen in the organization, so you get to talk with them and meet them and create your network. Love that. So all the fun stuff there. I was really, really in love, so Anna was as well. So you're an engineer. You're super motivated. You want to start coding, right? You already had the onboarding. Maybe if you accumulate the whole stuff, it makes maybe 2 to 3 weeks, but you really wanted to start something. We want you to start doing things, but we want to do it, you to do it in a safe way, kind of. So that's where comes Golden Pass and Golden Labs, and Golden Techs and Golden Labs. So to Backstage, we did the internal platform for engineers to access the code, access the team repos, and so on. There is also access to those things. So Golden Pass are curated training paths per family of function, let's say. So you have like a front-end engineer, you have back-end engineer, you have one for designer, you have one for data science, etc. And this is something that is curated by the people themselves on that specific function to try to set up the standards on what is excellent. What does it mean to be excellent at Spotify? So you will find all the documentation related to the tools you're going to use and the technologies, and you will also have kata, which is like exercise you can perform together to get better at that. And you are paired with your body to do that all the way. So you are not left alone, you do pair programming and you go through that, right? Which is super cool because it enables you to know more about the technical standards, the technical culture, meeting the people, and starting already to work on a real piece of code that's going to be shipped to the customers. The idea of that is to have equally performant teams and to reduce the onboarding task. So this is your team. It's a cool team. They are very, very much diverse. They are from everywhere in the world. So usually it's 6 to 12 people. Multi-competency is led by an EM and a PM. Also, I will share all the slides with you after that, if you want. And they are distributed, meaning that you are most likely to work with people that are somewhere in the world, okay? They try to group the people also to have like not exhausting time zones. Like if you are in New York and you have to work with somebody in Tokyo, that's going to be painful at some point. So they try to take that in consideration. But it's very, very common that you are in France working with somebody in UK, somebody in Stockholm, and maybe somebody in New York. They are very stable. The team at Spotify, for example, the first team I met was Kronos. Kronos is the team that is in charge of the C++ code base very deep in the platform, but that manage the synchronization of the time. And they're been together for 12 years. Not because they have a gun on their head. No, they are together because they like each other, they like working each other, they like the topics they're working each other, and they want to stay. They really own it, okay? So that's cool. Very stable, but they're also capable of like being more dynamic when it needs. So if there is a cool project, I'm part of Kronos, for example, I'm a C++ engineer. There is this cool project about Java that will use Java. I don't know about Java, but I'm really interested. Then I can move. I can make like a stage de troisième. I don't know how to translate that. Scholarship, internship, something like that. And go to that team that does that for a few months, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, where I will learn with them Java that I will bring back to my team. And meanwhile, I will have brought them also what I know about C++, the platform, the architectures, and so on. So that can happen as well. Each team has a mission. They are very autonomous. They are very responsible from A to Z about everything, about like choosing the problem they want to solve to we are going to put that on the hands of the customers, and if there is a pain point in production, if it breaks in production, that will be us on the line. When I say they own, they have an internal, I like the organization they chose. So there are 500, 600 teams managing the platform. The code base became very, very much huge, right? So you have dependencies everywhere. Of course, you're being intentional. There are architects and so on. There's a guild of architects and so on that try to reduce that and decouple and so on, do the work that has to be done. But at some point, maybe he's going to have a piece of work that I need to change for the things I want to do. So most of the time, I'm going to go and see him. Hey, I need to work on that. Would you be kind doing that work with me? And they have no time because they have their own priorities and so on. So what's going to happen is that they're going to tell me, okay, do it on your own. This is our guideline. This is our technical standards and so on. Please read that, go through that, respect that. And then I will do my change. And then I will push my PR. They're going to review it. If it fits their standards, then they're going to prove it and they're going to own it. If not, push back. I need to do better. So across the growth of Spotify as numbers of users, they started with few millions of users to, back then it was 500, also grew in the same time the numbers of employees. Remember what I told you, that when Henry came with this famous Spotify model, there were like a bunch of 300, 400 people. When I joined the company, we were almost 10,000. So it stretched, right? It stretched a lot. So first question, how could you reasonably imagine that this pool sketching that comes from 2012, when there were 300, still works? It has not. In fact, that model was dropped quite fast. Not all the model, but the pieces that didn't work. Example, the chapters. So they kept the squads, they kept squad, they renamed that product team because we had some issue with cultural appropriation, we were not comfortable with that. We call that product team. Product team in the meaning of Marty Kagan product teams. When a lot of product team were together in some perimeter scope, they group into product areas. Then you have the tribes that were renamed as studios, but functions the same, which is always the same, it's fractal. You have a team, then you have a team of team, then you have a team of teams, and so on. The idea is to keep it light. You have just at the head of the team or the team of team the same structure, which is the trio or the EPDA, one engineer, one product, one designer, one data person that are equally responsible and accountable for the choice that is made by the team. And then you have BUs and so on. But for traditional management, they went on to the more simple traditional vertical management because that's the way it works more. And remember that when you scale, it means that you add complexity on something that is complex. So the idea here is to try to simplify, right? What they kept is also that we have the fast connection with the leadership team. I'm just checking where am I? Okay, I'm good. We have a good connection with the leadership team. So at the very beginning, Daniel was very close to the people in the engineer. It was very easy to go and talk with them. You could think that maybe at 10,000 people, you would see him less. Maybe it would be in this like glass room, office or something, which is not. You can really find him in the open space. He plays video games with you. He's very easy and approachable, which is cool because his job is to make sure that everybody in the company understand what is the strategy, where we want to go and where we want to go that. His job is to make sure that we are 100% fully in love with the idea. And he does that. So once a month, he does the whole hands, where you share everything without fluff or bluff, I would say. So it shares the bad result, the good result, what is performing, not performing, priorities, maybe competitors' landscape and so on. It gives us, it equips us with a good business and financial acumen, which is very, very important for people to make choices. Somebody in the stage this morning said that it's very important that software engineers understand business languages and financial languages. I'm plus 1,000 on that one. That's the key, right? So it gives us that, and it gives us also the prior board. The prior board is the list of all the big projects that Spotify has in their head, and is ranked in a very strict way using 3 levels. So P0 is the absolute priority. What is absolute priority? There is one thing only, is KTLO, keep the light on. So it's production. Means it's tech debt as well. It's bugs, it's quality, it's the performance of the platform. And that makes sense when you think about it, because that is what brings money back in the company. So that should be priority, absolute priority. You cannot build something new on something that is like messed. Company bets is priority 1, below. So you have cleared everything P0, you go P1. Company bets. Company bets is all the things that we believe that if we work all together, we have better chance to make a dent. Big project. And then you have everything else that is local. It's up to you to figure it out. It's up to you to prioritize that. And it's stack ranked. And it's not a list of 50 or 60 or 90 or whatever project. It's a small list of maybe 15 to 20 for the whole company. There's a bit too much if you want to my opinion on that. Company bets. And company bets you can find them very easily. It's nothing is hidden. You can go into the internal website. I know what company bet are on, what has been prioritized, what the budget, what is like the target to reach. And if you and your team feel that you can contribute to one of those, then you can self-position yourself on that one. Nobody's going to tell you, please put you on that project. No, you can do that, your choice, by yourself. You know your scope better. One thing that I really love there is how those like company bets are born. And this is really a bottom-up approach. Mushroom, that's the RFC, request for change. So we know that as engineers, request for change when you want to do a change on something. But they kind of use that to hack the overall system. And I find it's very smart because it's very light. It's just one Google Doc, okay? If I see something that doesn't work, it's a bit the lean approach. You see it, you own it, you fix it, right? So it's the same. If I see something that doesn't work, either in the code, either in the app, like the experience we provide, either in the communication, either in the organization, whatever doesn't work or whatever can be improved, I can start a Google document and I write it. I have observed facts, data, Based on those facts and data, I understand what are the insights, the patterns I see. And why those insights and patterns lead me to think that this is not functioning properly or that could be improved, and how's that, how much. So it's very scientific, very rational when you, the structuring of that. You write all your things, you do your best on that, and then you put it in the vast word, not in the full word, but at least at Spotify, you share with the overall people at Spotify. And what happens is like people that are going to start reacting. It's a poor Google Doc, a basic Google Doc. They're going to take, but that's crap. Oh, that's cool. Oh, did you thought about that? Have you seen that work that that guy did, and so on? And there is kind of a little conversation that's going to happen here. And that little conversation is going to drag more and more and more attention, is going to create traction, we call that, in products. So at some point, maybe it was just a handful of people that got passionate by your idea, but at some point it could be hundreds, if not thousands. And what happened is when there are thousands of people that are very passionate about everything that you say, then it becomes visible. It becomes visible to Daniel, and that's a good sign for him to say, on 10,000 people, 8,000 people are thinking that's really cool to do, we should do it. Nice. This is a very low-key, very cheap way to do big changes. I'm going to go fast on that. That's not the very interesting part. So they have rhythm. What is cool is that they don't go, they have a multi-horizon rhythm to plan and forecast, because we still love to plan and forecast, even though we know that forecast is like wrong from day one. So we have these like long views, mid views, short views, and we use several set of tools to use that. Don't be passionate about the tools because they change quite often. For example, OKRs. Spotify adopted OKRs when Google started them. They tried to do the things. There was a nightmare. They dropped it. Like a few years after, there was like, maybe we did not do it in the best way. So they took it back, simplify it, and now they're in a kind of, you will use it-ish, make always. And maybe they're going to drop it. What is cool is they have like, this is more interesting, they have several levels of planning that happens in the same time. So that's the rhythm. We could think that the company has its own rhythm. It's cool for the company to think large and go and see further. So those guys are planning big initiative and big change and big investments, because this is what we talk about, where we want to put the money and the effort and because of the strategy, 3 years. And at the other side of the spectrum, you have the tiny team that go more on the continuous based planning. And that can happen, that works. It works to have teams that plan over every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on what you choose, maybe even 1 week if you do pure XP, for example, and in the same time having other sides of the organization, maybe planning quarterly or maybe planning yearly and so on. Not everyone has to follow exactly the same rhythm. You would say, Rachel, that's going to make a lot of noise if everyone plans whatever they want, their very own rhythm. But there, I want to drag your attention to modern jazz or free jazz, where each of the instruments plays the way they want with their own rhythm. But if you pay attention to the other instrument, that you start putting your rhythm in synchronization with them, and it does not create chaos and noise, it creates music. That's a bit the same spirit there. Very fast, I wanted to, like, how those team work. Is there somebody to tell them, like, you have to do that? No. Okay? So how does it work? It's a bit of a cycle here. So everything starts and ends by data. So first thing first in the morning, you go and check your dashboards, monitor, logs, whatever, and you try to see, are you performing, yes or no? Are there any problem? Are we successful? Did the experimentation we did, are they good or not? Da, da, da. You start by them. Sometimes you can receive alerts if something goes wrong. For example, in that case, it could be that maybe the registration process has slightly dropped by 0.6%. That's an issue for that team, because that team is responsible of registration. So what they're going to do, they're going to check around all together, what happens, where, when, why, what do we have as data, what is missing, what can we add on top of that. Sometimes they are going to go and meet directly end users that are subject to the issue, they're contacting the customer support, they can do interviews, reviews, and so on, until they make hypotheses and good hypotheses. And based on those hypotheses, they are going to prototype as fast as possible variants, aka alternative of the piece of code that is problematic, and as much as variant as they have hypotheses to test and try. And this code, they are going to ship it as fast as possible, at least weekly. It is going to be pushed during the weekly release, so that as soon as the app is outside, using the back-end tool that we have through the experimentation platform, they're going to be able to activate this or that variant to this or that segment of the user base and try to monitor very live what is working, what is not. And based on the result they're going to obtain, they're going to see, do we validate that, and then do we scale it? Do we throw it because it doesn't work, or it creates harm? Something can be good sometimes, but create harms. And then rinse and repeat. This is exactly how they work. This is the end-to-end autonomy. They have a very rational way of things to put their mental model. So that would be that. They call that the thoughtful execution framework. Everything is the goal they want to reach. What are the data and insight we have about that? How can we identify problems and turn them into an opportunity to make it something that we can really base on? What are the hypotheses that we can derive from that? And what are the prototypes that we can build to test the hypothesis? Loop. So if you are a bit into product management those days, there is this person, Teresa Torres, that wrote a very good book. I really recommend you to read it, called Continuous Discovery Habit. It's about doing discovery and delivery in the same time by the same team. So please stop the nonsense, having a team that does the discovery on one side and having the team that does the delivery on the other side. That's not the way to do it. That's the waterfall-ish approach of it. Cool, so that's a presentation. Very fast about delivery. One of the beliefs of Daniel was we need to go fast. He has a motto that he displays everywhere: speed is everything. That's his belief, right? And because speed is everything, we need to be able to ship very, very fast on the market. But we don't want to kill ourselves in the process. So the only way to ship super fast is to ship super safe. So they invested a hell of money and time and energy and brain juice in building the CI/CD platform, the test platform, in making sure that when we ship something is safe. Safe to try, safe to fail, right? We do that. Talking about release as well, I would like to kill the idea of agile release train that was brought by SAFe framework that tried to make you think that agile release train is about teams of team, which is not. Agile release train is about how we push, how we release things on the market. This is a release strategy work. This is not an organizational thing. So the idea behind agile release train is the release will happen whatever happens, like a train that goes on the guard. You are on the platform, cool. You are not, doesn't care, it will pass. So what means is that ready or not, finished or not finished, your code will be pushed in production every Thursday. Every Thursday. Every Thursday we take a branch, a release candidate branch from the trunk. We add some test about it. If it's safe, it's packaged, it goes, it will be pushed on the stores on Monday. All of the pipeline here is automated. There is just one thing that is not automated, is the final push on the stores, App Store, Google Store, and so on, is done by a human, by a release manager. Why is that? Because it's super painful to go that. If you have done app release, you know that Apple is like, though there is a human behind that. So let's kill that. So means that if you want to ship whatever stages of the code, you have to do it safe. It means that all the code must be controlled very safely. So 100% of the code is under Victor flag. So that's cool, because we can ship and then activate or not, or deactivate. And then, of course, we do the canary release. We are not releasing like mad people. We do first like the all employee, and then the alphas and the betas, and the 1%, 2%, blah, blah, blah. And BIM, we do that. In 2023, just one release was canceled. Just one. I will talk about that more later in the slide deck. Innovation. It's very easy to get trapped into the very insane fast rhythm of building and delivering and building and delivering and shipping and da-da-da-da. And if you do that, and even if you do a lot of A/B testing, that will be you just optimizing something. This is new, not you innovating. And one of the beliefs also of Daniel is that if you don't innovate, then somebody's going to do it, and they're going to kill you on the market. So he wants to make sure that we have brain space to do that. So how to do that? 2 days per month that you can use to do whatever you feel that boosts your brain. Could be you reading, could be you taking some trainings, could be you going and see people, going to a conference, whatever. But it could be also you tackling, like trying to prototype some things, try to experiment things. Fine. Just show us what you have done, right? Demo. And then once a year, you have the Hack Week. Hack Week is the whole company that puts the pencil aside, and that we have this very cool moment where on Monday, people that have idea comes on the marketplace, say, hey, I have an idea to do that and that. And the other people are like, hey, I have the competency to help you on that and that. And they create like dynamic teams all together, temporary teams all together that, oh, I'm super late, that are going to work on that. At the end of the week, the only thing that we ask them is to show everything. And that everything could be shippable. That's the condition, ship something. At the end of the week, for example, in 2023, there was 960 fully finished projects that were born into just one week. Yeah, I know. And it's fun. It's super fun. And some of them, they became very cool feature that provide a lot of new customers and a lot of money. So innovation is cool and fun, but it's also like business-wise very interesting. Also Wellness Week. In 2021, we received an email on Thursday saying Be aware that on Monday, all offices at Spotify worldwide are going to be closed for 1 week. Every employee is going to be given 1 week additional of free time, and you have a check of 150 euros for you to take time because you work so much, you have achieved so much that it's you to take a break. Yes, everyone. Yes, customer support as well. Yes, managers as well. And guess what? You can close a company worldwide for one week. And the world kept speeding. Yeah. So unless you are dealing with a very critical system that kills people if they stop, like medical, I don't know, military or whatsoever, 90% of the company, they can stop. You can bring customer support with you when you do your cool offsites. You don't have to punish them. Yeah. So it's not a model, kind of a model. So everything that I mentioned here, if you paid attention, was already in the poster into 2012. That's cool. The only thing that is not is the crazy squads and tribes and chapters and so on. The problem is that this is the only thing that you guys kept in mind and tried to keep applying stubbornly. So stop doing that, okay? Please, really stop. But do take a look at the other very cool stuff they do, because this is where engineering culture is, not in revamping your team and squads, okay? So it could feel that this is the magic company where everything is cool and live, and I was reading enough, but this is not the case. In 2023, it happened there was the crisis in the tech industry. They had plenty of companies all over the world that laid off massively people. And Spotify was also doing that. They laid off the equivalent, or almost 27% of their employees in a very harsh way. So that pissed people off. Because when you are so much in love with the company, remember they did everything so that you really trust them, you really feel them, you are part of them. This is family, this is more than da-da-da. And suddenly, hush. That was really harsh to manage. And also they tried to lower the voices of everyone by cutting the Slack channels. Guess what? Doesn't work. Slack channels, they reappeared. And they also tried to push, because when you have chaos like that, people, it's a human, like you want to do more order. So they try to change the rules. So now you are all going to use Jira. Yeah. Guess what? Who rolled back a few months after? Okay? But that was also in the model. This kind of balancing between bureaucracy and chaos, this is something they had in mind as well. That happened on them, the pendulum like that, several times. If you have a culture in your company that is not based on transparency and safety and people's empowerment and acknowledging the power of engineering, if you all base everything just on the fear of the system, it won't work. You can do whatever fancy process. You can pretend you do the Spotify model. If you don't take the 90% off, you will miss it. This is like, and yeah, I showed it because we are a bit late. So tack, this is me giving you a Swedish word. That means thank you. Thank you of the organization team and the sponsors and you to be there. And if you want an hejdå, that means bye-bye. If you want to give me feedback, I think there is a QR code. I really appreciate that. But the best way to give me feedback is to come and see me with a coffee. And I love to chat. Thank you so much.
Merci Rachel. On va faire une petite série de questions-réponses assez rapides parce qu'on est un petit peu en retard. Non, c'est pas grave. Pensez bien à aller sur le site de Riviera DEV ou sur l'appli Open Feedback pour faire un feedback à Rachel sur sa prestation. Merci.
Si vous avez détesté, venez me voir. J'aime bien savoir pourquoi aussi. C'est possible. Hein, vous êtes les bienvenus.
J'en ai une. Désolé, je ne vais pas la faire en anglais, faire en français. Ma question, c'est Ok, je comprends que c'est mal appliqué, effectivement, le modèle probablement et tout ça. Mais est-ce que ils l'ont supprimé parce que ça ne marchait pas ou parce que en grossissant, ça ne marchait plus? Ce qui est différent.
Alors, il y a oui et oui. Alors la première chose, ils ont très rapidement arrêté une chose qui était les chapters. Alors au début, tu sais, tu avais du management vertical qui était sur le périmètre fonctionnel qui était par la tribe, c'est vertical comme ça. Et tu avais un management horizontal qui était les chapters, qui était un management des personnes, du développement des compétences. Donc tu avais le chef de tous les PM, le chef de tous les fronts, etc. Ça, ce système-là, d'avoir la double matrice, comme ça, de double reporting, c'est une horreur. En termes de charge cognitive, c'est insupportable.
Okay.
Donc ça, ils ont droppé très vite.
C'est ce qui est vraiment la différence dans le modèle.
Ouais, ça, c'est une très grosse différence que ça, ils ont abandonné très, très vite. Et après, ils ont aussi modifié ensuite le modèle parce que juste le modèle des squads et des tribes et après Spotify, ça ne suffisait pas pour scaler à la taille où ils sont allés. Donc, ils ont rajouté des couches. Ça, c'est le côté fractal qui fait que tu peux le faire assez facilement avec des équipes d'équipes, des équipes d'équipes d'équipes, des équipes d'équipes d'équipes d'équipes, et bien en gardant toujours un management qui est très light. Donc tu te retrouves avec peut-être un périmètre, moi où j'étais, j'avais un périmètre de 300 ou 400 personnes, mais tu as 3 ou 4 personnes qui dirigent ça. Donc en termes d'overhead de management, c'est très léger en fait.
Ok, mais donc ma question est, est-ce que c'est dans une certaine mesure applicable à des équipes petites qui grossissent pas forcément aussi vite que Spotify?
Ça marche bien. Mais encore une fois, c'est pas le fait d'avoir des squads et des tribes qui va faire que tu vas. C'est pas ça qui les a rendus qui a du succès. Je pense qu'ils auraient eu exactement le même succès sans même avoir à aucun moment des tribes et des squads. Ce qui les rend vraiment qui a du succès, c'est est-ce que ton équipe, ta squad, est-ce que c'est une équipe qui est vraiment autonome? Est-ce qu'elle peut décider toute seule des problèmes sur lesquels elle veut travailler? Est-ce qu'elle peut décider toute seule de comment elle les priorise? Est-ce qu'elle peut décider toute seule de comment elle veut les régler? Est-ce qu'elle peut gérer ses investissements? Est-ce qu'elle peut recruter les gens dont elle a besoin?
Ok, donc plus la culture que l'organisation au final.
La culture de l'ingénierie derrière et la culture du leadership derrière. Et ce qu'il a dit, c'est tout à fait vrai. Le fait d'avoir un fondeur qui est ingénieur, qui a cette culture de l'ingénierie-là, ça a permis, je pense, fondamentalement, le fait que tu n'as pas cette croyance que l'ingénierie est le prestataire de service du business. Chez eux, le business, c'est la plateforme. Ok.
Ok.
Moi, quand on m'a dit, quand j'étais recruté, on m'a dit, t'as été recruté où?